You don't need to be on Mount Everest to go Everesting, but you probably do need to be in the shape of an ultramarathoner. At Vitosha Mountain in the European nation of Bulgaria, a man named Viktor Azanov recently attempted a type of trek that some would call impossible. Everesting is climbing the equivalent of the height of Mount Everest, 29,029 feet. It can be done on shorter mountains by scaling their peak over and over again, in this case 19 times. The kicker is, you're supposed to do it without stopping, without sleeping, without any breaks except taking the time to eat. And Azanov just did. Took him 46 hours. He used pacers to keep him on track and keep him encouraged. He also had the help of his guide dog, Taddy, because Azanov is blind. So why would even an ultramarathoner want to do this for almost 2 complete days without rest? To raise money. Azanov took on the challenge to benefit a one-of-a-kind guide dog school in the Bulgarian capital. It means the world to have you watching The World from A to Z. I'm Carl Azuz. Last Tuesday, when we reported on the pressures facing American teenagers, we mentioned that 60% of the girls surveyed by the Pew Research Center said they were planning to go to college. It was 46% for boys, who were a bit more likely to say they were planning to attend a vocational school, join the military, or enter the workforce right out of high school. Reasons some people are hesitant to enroll in a traditional higher education program include the expense of attending, the reluctance to borrow money to do it, and the concern that a college degree won't help graduates as much as it used to. Over the past 5 years, dozens of American colleges have closed down or merged with other schools, and analysts say dozens more may do that over the next 5 years. Across the board, freshman enrollment did grow last fall, according to info from the National Student Clearinghouse Research Center. But that growth wasn't evenly spread across all degree programs. For instance, the number of students pursuing bachelor's degrees grew by 2.9%. Those seeking associate's degrees grew by 6.3%. Those going for certificates jumped by almost 10%. So analysts are seeing more growth in shorter-term programs. For students contemplating college, one expert interviewed by U.S. News and World Report encourages them to look at school outcomes. What kind of results have graduates had after attending a given college? Other experts have said it's a good idea to find out where the jobs are and to pursue studies that can best position you to get one.
The cost of college has risen dramatically in the last 3 decades. Inflation and increasing operating costs have caused colleges to charge more. They're also receiving less federal funding.
There's no doubt that college in the U.S. is expensive.
Alex Gailey is an analyst at financial company Bankrate. They recently broke down the cost of tuition plus fees like room and board for this current academic year and estimated the average in-state tuition and room and board at a public 4-year college was nearly $25,000 a year. Out-of-state students paid an average of $44,000 a year. A private 4-year college costs close to $59,000 a year.
I think people just aren't feeling like maybe the ROI of college degrees is the same as it was a few decades ago.
There are things students can do to lower some of these costs.
One way to immediately cut down the cost of college is being willing to attend a college that is near where you live and living at home.
Consider attending a community college and then transferring to a 4-year college. Apply for work-study jobs, look into financial help like student loans, scholarships, and grants, and choose a degree with a positive return on your investment. I'm Jen Sullivan.
Upward knowledge. In 1840, an English scientist and chemist produced the first detailed photograph of what? A person, the moon, the heart, a coral reef. The first known photograph of a person was taken in 1838 by Louis Daguerre, but another researcher used his process to capture the moon in 1840.
On this date in world history! We are going to the moon and back on this date in world history. The first known detailed photo of the moon was taken in 1840. The daguerreotype by scientist and photographer John Draper showed craters, mountains, valleys, and other rocky terrain that hadn't been seen before. One of the moon's craters is named after John Draper's son, Henry, who was also a photographer. On March 26, 1934, driving tests were introduced for the first time in the United Kingdom. It came at a time when an average of 7,000 people died in car accidents there each year. And Egypt and Israel signed a historic peace treaty on this date in 1979, formally ending 3 decades of hostilities between the two neighboring countries. The treaty had been agreed upon the previous year, and the two nations' leaders shared a Nobel Peace Prize for making it.
History isn't only in textbooks, it's all around you. At Educational Travel Adventures, we take students beyond the classroom and out into the world. Your adventure starts here.
Where in the world? From 1958 until 1971, this nation formed part of the United Arab Republic. It's located in northern Africa between Sudan and the Mediterranean Sea. It's an ancient country that was organized as a kingdom more than 5,000 years ago. This is Egypt, a nation of 111 million people whose capital is Cairo.
Workers on a factory line making tiles for their construction company. But if you take a closer look, you'll see they're far from ordinary bathroom tiles.
We invented a technology and an industrial process whereby we transform all forms of plastic waste into building materials.
Tile Green is an Egyptian construction company that started in 2021. It uses plastics that are hard to recycle and often end up in dumpsters or littering streets, like used food containers and plastic bags, to create building materials.
We manufacture a material called polymer aggregate composite, where we mix plastic waste with natural aggregates.
The term natural aggregates refers to several elements that have been added together, in this case gravel and sand, and the company then mixes these with plastic trash particles to form a gray sludge. Then it is poured into molds and pushed down by a hydraulic press. Once the excess sludge is scraped off, you're left with a nice tile brick. This small factory just outside of Cairo produces about 5,000 tiles a month. Tile Green has two main objectives: make building materials that offer an alternative to cement-based tiles, and reduce Egypt's waste.
Egypt produces around 4.5 million tons of plastic waste a year. The recycling rate is somewhere between 10 and 15%.
According to a global environmental initiative, Egypt is responsible for 43% of waste that ends up in the Mediterranean. Building tiles seemed like a good product to redirect that plastic into, because construction and real estate are huge industries in Egypt, often seen as the cornerstone of Egypt's economy. They accounted for around 15% of Egypt's GDP in 2022. Recently, the startup partnered with a real estate company called SODIC and built them a paved pathway in their admin complex, with talks of more projects to come. Since Tile Green started, they've been working on building interlocking floor tiles, but now they also make bricks, tiles, pillars, and even different types of precast furniture.
What day is it?
March 26th is National Spinach Day, a time to enjoy a leafy green that contains vitamins, minerals, and protein. It's sometimes known as the Persian vegetable because historians believe it was first grown in the Middle East.
Washington was the 42nd state admitted to the Union, but it's the first we're visiting on today's World of Viewers. Mr. Nelly's class is at View Ridge Middle School in Ridgefield, home of the Herons in the Evergreen State. From the Peace Garden state of North Dakota, hello to Mrs. Rowland's class watching from Minot North High School. The Sentinels are standing strong in Minot. And from North Charleston, South Carolina, we welcome Mrs. Orr and the Raptors of Academic Magnet High School. Great to see y'all in the Palmetto State. When you think emotional support animal, what's making the rounds in Iowa probably isn't the first thing you think of. Meet Mr. Sushi, though he could be called Mr. Stinky because he's a skunk. To be fair, Mr. Sushi has been de-scented so people can do this without getting sprayed and dismayed. But why? He's sweet, he's friendly, he makes people happy, and he gives them a chance to snuggle up with an animal that for good reason doesn't normally get a lot of love. So it's easy to tell why polecat's got the tongue of critics who'd normally skunk the idea, saying it stinks and calling it a whiff, before turning around and spewing facts that that's a mammal of a different stripe. Maybe he's been stink badgered in the past, but across the gland, once you're desensitized to the idea, Mr. Sushi brings Yushi the sweet smell of support. I'm Carl Azuz, peddling pungent puns on the world from A to Z. Thank you for watching this Wednesday.